Whenever the sound came from the house, the nannies knew something was wrong. They immediately raced against time and hid all the food they had just made. But how could they hide from the dog's nose? Buck looked at the nanny and put on a pitiful expression. It might work for other dogs, but Buck was a troublemaker. Buck was undoubtedly kicked out of the kitchen. The wealthy owner behind him looked helpless and then pulled him out, threw him to his own doorstep. The smart Buck was about to jump in from the window. Suddenly the rich man came out and told him it was his birthday and asked Buck not to be naughty today. But before he finished speaking, he was attracted by a rabbit and threw everything the rich man had just said to the back of his mind and ran after the rabbit. Until noon, Buck was hungry. When he came back to eat, he suddenly found the table full of rich dishes. The starving him licked his mouth. At this time, the rich man was taking a family photo, but Buck broke into the lens and sat down on the ground. When everyone saw Buck with a chicken leg in his mouth, they knew something was wrong. Sure enough, the feast that had just been prepared was messed up by Buck. The rich man at this time looked helpless and snatched the chicken leg from Buck's mouth, but only got the bone. In the evening, the angry rich man locked Buck at the door and let him reflect on the mistakes he made today. But he didn't expect this to be their last meeting. In the middle of the night, a stranger used food to lure Buck into the car, and Buck followed his instinct and didn't think much and jumped up. When he got to the food, the two people outside the car immediately closed the cage. No matter how hard Buck hid inside, it was useless. It turned out that Buck was sold to a dog dealer. Buck saw himself getting farther and farther away from home through the gap. He was anxious, but no matter how he howled, it was useless. He didn't know how long it had been. The wooden box was suddenly opened. The frightened Buck hid in the corner. In order to escape, he rushed out of the wooden box. At this time, the dog dealer was holding a wooden stick and staring at him. Without a choice, Buck rushed towards the dog dealer. When Buck stood up again, facing the wooden stick in the dog dealer's hand, he obediently lowered his dog head. The wooden stick also became Buck's nightmare. Buck knew he had no power to fight back in front of the dog dealer's wooden stick, so he decided to wait for an opportunity. When the dog dealer left, he broke free from his bondage with his strong body. When he escaped, he found out that he had come to Alaska full of ice and snow. The dog from the south came to the north for the first time, and walked out a step of not recognizing his relatives on the snow. For the snowflakes he had never seen before, Buck was extremely excited. But he still couldn't escape the fate of being sold by the dog dealer. At this time, a man liked Buck's strong physique, and spent a lot of money to buy him, so Buck welcomed his second owner. But Jack's wife was very dissatisfied when she saw Buck, and said that for the same price, she could buy 2 sled dogs. But what they didn't know was, in the following days, Buck would save their lives. Soon Buck was put on a collar, and officially became one of them. Then Jack planned the route of this destination in front of the dog, but Buck looked around, and didn't listen to the owner's words at all. When the team was ready to go, Buck in the back didn't know how to cooperate. A funny scene happened. He saw him running with his front feet. As the speed got faster and faster, Buck soon fell down, and was dragged by other dogs. The dogs in front all showed a smile. After a while, Buck finally caught up with the team, but soon he was attracted by a wild rabbit on the side of the road, and an accident happened at this time. Buck caused the whole team to fall down the hillside. Buck lowered his head like a child who made a mistake, but Jack didn't blame him, and said that failure is the mother of success, and encouraged Buck not to be discouraged. In the following days, Buck learned to cooperate with the team, but he was so tired that he collapsed on the ground, until he was frozen awake at night. Buck, who grew up in a rich man's house since he was a child, felt the cold he had never felt before. Then he came into the tent, and pushed the female owner out of the tent. The female owner who was frozen awake looked at the sleeping Buck, and immediately drove him out. At this time Buck found there was an animal he had never seen before lying on the stone. Under the urge of curiosity, he slowly approached. When the other party slowly stood up, it turned out to be a giant wolf. Buck was scared and retreated, stepped on the sleeping dog. When he turned his head, the giant wolf was gone. The next day the sled team set off again, but Buck was not used to walking on the ice and slid all the way. This happened to be seen by the black dog. The black dog deliberately turned in front of the dead wood. Buck, who couldn't stop, was tripped by the dead wood. The black dog had already drunk enough, but still occupied the only water source. Other dogs also wanted to drink a sip, but he drove them away, and put on a fierce expression. The rest of the dogs were silent, and did not dare to go against him. But the new dog Buck couldn't stand it. He walked past the black dog, and on a piece of ice, he dug out a hole with his strong limbs. The other dogs came when they heard the sound. At this moment, Buck gained everyone's recognition. This made the black dog very angry. During the day the dogs completed the task of the day. At night the owner rewarded all the dogs with a fish. Buck was about to taste the delicious food. He suddenly found that the boss black dog had snatched the food from the big yellow dog. The big yellow dog was extremely disappointed. At this time Buck gave the fish to the big yellow dog. Seeing the big yellow dog embarrassed, Buck pushed it to his front with his nose. This time Buck's status in the hearts of other dogs changed. From then on Buck really integrated into the team. He no longer fell down as easily as before. This time he ran like lightning, from day to night, and from night to day. So he didn't know how many days and nights had passed. This day they came to a frozen water surface, but they didn't know that danger was quietly coming. Just in case, the female owner explored the road ahead, but suddenly the ice ice cracked. The female owner fell into the cold river. Buck saw this, and immediately ran like lightning. Soon the female owner couldn't hold on and was washed away by the rapids. At the critical moment, Buck jumped down. Seeing the female owner gradually losing consciousness, Buck used his strong body and dog paddle swimming, exhausted all his strength to break the ice. The female owner was successfully rescued, but the exhausted Buck was washed away by the water. Jack hurriedly looked for Buck everywhere. He saw him open a piece of ice, then took out a dagger and smashed the ice hard, but the dagger was broken. The ice still didn't move. Just when he was sad and helpless, a wooden stick stretched out from the side. Jack didn't think much, picked up the wooden stick and smashed the ice. Suddenly, he seemed to realize something. He turned his head and looked. It turned out to be Buck. It turned out that Buck had escaped back to the shore long ago. Seeing that Buck was fine, Jack hugged him tightly. The black dog saw all this. It was obvious that he was jealous. At night, the female owner sitting in front of the bonfire rewarded Buck with a big chicken leg for saving her life.
Now I do too.
Buck finally got the female owner's approval. Looking at all this, the black dog, he understood what he should do. Buck, who was walking at night, suddenly found a rabbit not far away. He immediately chased after it. Other dogs also joined in. Buck relied on his lightning speed and caught the rabbit with a leap. But he didn't eat the rabbit but let it go. But the rabbit hadn't gone far. The black dog suddenly appeared and bit the rabbit to death. The black dog also put on a fierce expression and looked at Buck. It was obvious that he was provoking Buck. But Buck didn't have any malice and didn't want to fight with him. The black dog kept bullying Buck. Finally, Buck was knocked out by the black dog. The black dog also came over to check if Buck was pretending. After confirming that he was really fainted, the black dog didn't forget to mock Buck before leaving. The other dogs saw Buck lose and were depressed. Even if the black dog won, they didn't want to recognize him as the boss. At this time, the old dog in the team tried to use the call to wake up Buck. Buck looked up when he heard the sound of his companion. He saw the black dog was about to teach the old dog a lesson. He turned his head and looked, but found a black giant wolf standing in front of him. Buck's wildness was awakened. At this time, Buck seemed to understand something. When the black dog turned his head, Buck slowly stood up and bared his teeth at him. But in order not to lose face in the dog group, the black dog still rushed up. This time Buck won. The dog group welcomed a new boss. The black dog knew that there was no place for him in the sled team, so he chose to leave the dog group, and finally disappeared in the snow. During the day, Jack couldn't find the black dog's figure. In order not to delay time, so Buck became the leader of the sled team. Jack put a collar on him. The other dogs also trusted Buck to take on this important task. When everything was ready, the team set off again. Under Buck's leadership, the speed increased several times. Jack had never felt such a fast speed. He shouted excitedly, but it was this shout that caused an avalanche. They didn't know if they could turn the danger into safety this time.